By Friday night, 70,000 people were stranded in a sea of thick, inescapable mud. Shelters collapsed under the weight of the rain, food supplies dwindled, and the portable toilets began overflowing into the saturated ground. Intense rainfall buried the city in mud, trapping every attendee in a landscape of ruined gear and flooded camps. This is Black Rock City, the temporary home of the annual Burning Man Festival. People travel here to build a bustling metropolis around a giant wooden effigy, celebrating a strict code of radical self-reliance. Attendees bring their own power grids, complex art installations, and thousands of vehicles into a completely barren basin, designing an intricate horseshoe-shaped grid from scratch. One storm broke the city's complex logistics, overnight turning a massive engineering feat into a mudlocked trap. For most of the year, the Black Rock Desert is a vast, dry lakebed. Its flat, cracked surface is incredibly stable, making it the perfect canvas for moving heavy equipment and building a temporary city. That stability vanished on Friday, September 1st, 2023. As a massive rainstorm moved over the area, the Bureau of Land Management stepped in and issued an immediate shelter-in-place order. The ground here is alkaline playa clay. Unlike normal soil, it doesn't absorb rainfall. Water pools on the surface. Mixed with ultrafine dust, it forms a thick adhesive glue that binds to anything, turning shoes into cement blocks and completely immobilizing tires. Because of this chemical reaction, driving became impossible. Officials were forced to shut down Gate Road, a temporary 8-mile dirt path that serves as the singular entry and exit for the entire festival. The remote, empty geography that allowed 70,000 people the ultimate freedom to build whatever they wanted had hardened into the walls of their trap. Trapped in place, isolation quickly took a psychological toll. 70,000 people were suddenly told they could not leave, and many had zero clear timeline for when the roads would dry. For the average attendee living in a basic tent or DIY shade structure, conditions degraded quickly. Their shelters sat right on the flooded ground, soaking their gear and forcing camps into immediate food and water rationing. The heavy mud also caused a massive breakdown in the city's infrastructure. The specialized sewage trucks needed to empty the thousands of portable toilets were too heavy to navigate the saturated clay, leaving the sanitation grid overwhelmed. Yet the storm did not punish everyone equally. Wealthy festival-goers and tech executives waited out the disaster inside luxury RVs, insulated by elevated floors, private bedrooms, and independent fuel-stocked generators. Some of these high-profile figures chose not to wait. A small group of celebrities, including comedian Chris Rock and DJ Diplo, abandoned their camps to execute an escape on foot. They marched through miles of deep, sticky clay for nearly 4 hours, eventually reaching the solid, paved asphalt highway, where they hitched a ride in the back of a fan's pickup truck. The mud disaster exposed a sharp divide. A festival heavily reliant on communal effort and equality immediately fractured into a survival scenario dictated by access to private wealth and heavy-duty resources. Back inside the mud-soaked city, anxiety bred misinformation. Rumors quickly swept through the camps that the standing water and hundreds of wet generators had led to a deadly mass electrocution. Those specific rumors were false. Authorities did record one fatality over the weekend, a 32-year-old man named Leon Rhee, but his death was caused by a drug overdose, completely unrelated to the weather. While the rain turned the playa into a trap, the subsequent panic created a logistical nightmare that lasted for days. Thousands of drivers attempted to force their way out against emergency orders. Over 300 cars, trucks, and SUVs broke from the camps and tried to forge their own paths across the wet playa. Predictably, they sank deep into the alkaline clay and were hopelessly immobilized. This map shows the impact of that defiance. Abandoned vehicles blocked the original gate road, rendering the established exit useless. Because the mud hardened around those trapped tires, organizers had to reroute the entire exodus operation through a new, complex path, extending wait times. The environment set the trap by dropping the rain, but the impatience and panic of the crowd firmly locked the doors. Finally, at 2 p.m. on Monday, September 4th, the sun dried the ground enough for officials to lift the driving ban. But the resulting mass exit created a crawling traffic jam that took some attendees up to 12 hours to navigate. By the time the festival's climactic event, the burning of the giant wooden man, took place that night, the crowd was fractured. Only a fraction of exhausted attendees remained on a heavily scarred playa. The entire event operates on the promise that a temporary society can sustain itself out in the wild. Yet, the moment the entry and exit roads dissolved, that self-reliance collapsed under the weight of basic logistics. Constructing a high-density, temporary metropolis in an environment entirely hostile to human biology requires a flawless chain of supplies. When a single rainstorm severs that chain, the safety and viability of these massive infrastructure projects are severely tested. The 2023 flood serves as a reminder of the fragility of temporary cities. We can engineer elaborate systems to survive in the wild, but the desert floor ultimately dictates the terms of survival.